Poor little girl calls for help saying, "They said this would stop. It never did." Before we dive into this story, drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. Now, let's begin. Officer Daniel Turner had been working the night shift for 12 years. He'd answered thousands of calls, accidents, disputes, emergencies of every kind. But the call that came through on that cold November evening would stay with him for the rest of his life. 911, what's your emergency? There was a pause, then a small voice, trembling but trying so hard to sound brave. My name is Lily. I'm 7 years old. Turner sat up straighter, his instincts immediately alert. Something about the way she said it, calm, rehearsed, like she'd been preparing for this moment. Hi, Lily, I'm Officer Turner. Can you tell me what's happening? I'm wearing my princess dress, she said, and he could hear her voice crack slightly. The purple one. It makes me feel brave. Turner kept his voice gentle. That's a beautiful dress, I'm sure. Lily, where are your parents? Another pause. Longer this time. They said it would stop, Lily whispered, and now the tears were breaking through. Everyone said things would get better, but they didn't. They never did. Turner's heart clenched. He'd heard fear before. He'd heard panic. But this was something different. This was exhaustion. Resignation in a 7-year-old child. Lily, honey, I need you to tell me, are you safe right now? Are you hurt? I'm in my room, the pink one with the stars on the ceiling. Mommy painted them when we first moved here. She said we'd make new memories. The little girl's voice dropped to barely a whisper. But she won't wake up now. I tried. I really tried. Turner was already on his feet, signaling to dispatch, getting the address traced. Lily, you did exactly the right thing by calling me. I'm coming to help you right now, okay? Can you stay on the phone with me? You promise you'll come? The question was loaded with something no child should carry. Doubt. Other people promised too. I promise, sweetheart. I'm getting in my car right now. Tell me about your princess dress. Which princess is it? As Lily described her favorite movie, Turner drove through the darkened streets, his jaw tight. The address came through. 847 Maple Street, East End. He knew that neighborhood. Knew the struggles there. When he pulled up to the house 15 minutes later, his chest tightened. The small home looked like it was barely holding together. Peeling paint, overgrown yard, one window covered with cardboard. This was the castle Lily had described. Lily, I'm here now. I'm right outside your house. I can see your lights, she said softly. They're blue and red, like in the movies. Turner approached the door, knocked firmly. Police, I'm here for Lily. No answer. The door was unlocked. What Officer Turner found when he stepped inside that house would reveal a truth that too many children live with every single day. A truth hidden behind closed doors, behind promises that never come true, behind the smiles of little girls in princess dresses who've learned to save themselves because no one else will. The door creaked open, and everything changed. 6 months earlier, life looked different for Lily Morrison. She'd wake up every morning in that same pink room, but back then the stars on the ceiling still sparkled with hope. Back then, her mother Sarah would sometimes be there, sitting on the edge of her bed, gently brushing Lily's honey brown hair. Good morning, my little princess, Sarah would whisper, and Lily would smile, believing that today might be one of the good days. Sarah Morrison was 32 but looked older, the kind of tired that sleep couldn't fix. She worked 2 jobs, mornings at the grocery store, evenings cleaning office buildings. Her hands were always rough, her eyes always heavy, but she loved her daughter fiercely, in the way drowning people love air. Mama, can we have pancakes? Lily asked one Saturday morning, bouncing on her bed. Sarah smiled, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. How about cereal today, baby? Mama's real tired. Okay, Lily chirped, ever the optimist. I can make it myself. I'm a big girl now. That was Lily's way, always trying to be helpful, always trying to be good enough that maybe, just maybe, everything would stay okay. Marcus had been living with them for 8 months by then. He wasn't Lily's real father. That man had left before she was born. Marcus was supposed to be better. He'd promised Sarah he would be. We'll be a real family, he'd said when he moved in. I'll take care of you both. But Marcus was like smoke. There one moment, gone the next. He'd disappear for days, claiming to be looking for better work, coming back with empty pockets and shorter tempers. At school, Lily's teacher, Mrs. Chen, noticed things. The same outfit worn 3 days in a row, the way Lily would fall asleep during story time, how she'd eat both her lunch and anyone else's leftovers with unusual urgency. "Lily, sweetie, is everything all right at home?" Mrs. Chen asked gently one afternoon. Lily's eyes went wide, the practiced panic of a child who'd been told not to make problems. "Yes, ma'am, everything's perfect. Mama's just working really hard to get us a better house. And Marcus is gonna help us soon, he promised." Mrs. Chen wanted to press further, but Lily's smile was so bright, so desperate. She made a note in Lily's file instead. At home, Sarah stared at the eviction notice she'd hidden in her purse. 3 months behind on rent. The landlord had been patient, but patience had limits. She swallowed 2 of the pills her doctor had prescribed for her headaches, then 2 more. The pain was unbearable these days, or maybe she just needed to stop feeling anything at all. "Mama?" Lily appeared in the doorway, her stuffed unicorn clutched tight. "Can we read a story tonight? Like we used to?" Sarah looked at her daughter, really looked, and saw all the dreams she'd had when Lily was born, the life she'd wanted to give her, the mother she'd wanted to be. "Of course, baby, go pick your favorite." That night they curled up together, and Sarah read about Cinderella, about a girl who waited and waited for her life to change, who stayed kind even when the world wasn't kind back. "Do you think her fairy godmother was real, Mama?" Lily asked sleepily. "I think," Sarah paused, choosing her words carefully, "I think sometimes we have to believe in magic, even when it's hard to see." "I believe," Lily whispered. "I believe things will get better for us too." Sarah held her daughter tighter, tears slipping silently down her cheeks where Lily couldn't see them. She didn't know how to tell her little girl that she'd stopped believing in magic a long time ago, that she was drowning, that the pills that made the pain stop were the only thing keeping her afloat, and slowly pulling her under at the same time. 2 weeks later, they were evicted. The new house on Maple Street cost half what the old apartment did, and it showed. "It's like a cottage," Lily announced bravely, standing in the weed-choked front yard. "Like where Snow White lived with the dwarfs." Sarah wanted to cry. The house was small, dim, with water stains blooming across the ceiling like dark flowers. The windows rattled in their frames. The neighborhood felt forgotten. Houses with boarded windows, cars on blocks. The kind of place where people stopped looking at each other. "It's temporary, baby," Sarah promised, the words tasting like ash. "Just until Mama gets back on her feet." But getting back on her feet felt impossible when she could barely stand. The headaches had gotten worse. The doctor had increased her medication. Pills for pain, pills for anxiety, pills to help her sleep. Sarah told herself she was taking them as prescribed, but the line between as needed and constantly needed had blurred somewhere along the way. Marcus helped them move in, then disappeared again. "Got a lead on a job 2 towns over," he'd said, kissing Sarah's forehead. "Be back in a few days." That was 3 weeks ago. Lily started at her new school, Jefferson Elementary, where the paint was peeling and the playground equipment looked tired. Mrs. Chen had sent her records over with a note of concern, but in an overcrowded school system, one quiet girl who didn't cause trouble was easy to overlook. "Lily Morrison?" Her new teacher, Mr. Davis, called during attendance that first day. "Here," she said brightly, wearing her favorite purple dress, the princess one. It was getting too small, the hem rising above her knees, but it made her feel safe. The other kids stared, some giggled. Wearing a princess dress to 3rd grade wasn't exactly cool. At lunch, Lily sat alone, eating the free meal she'd been enrolled in. She didn't mind being alone. Alone was better than explaining why she sometimes smelled like the mold growing in her bathroom, or why she wore the same clothes multiple days. At home, Sarah spent most days in bed now. The prescriptions had run out, but she'd found a way to get more. A neighbor who knew a guy who knew a guy. She told herself it was just until things got better, just until the pain stopped. "Mama?" Lily would call softly, standing in the doorway of Sarah's darkened bedroom. "Are you awake?" Sometimes Sarah would stir, sometimes she wouldn't. Lily learned to make sandwiches, though the bread was often stale. She learned to do her homework by the light of her small bedside lamp. She learned that if she was very, very quiet, she could pretend everything was normal. One afternoon, A social worker named Ms. Patterson knocked on their door. Someone from the school had called. Lily had missed 5 days in 2 weeks. Sarah, in a moment of pure terror-fueled clarity, pulled herself together. She showered, cleaned the visible parts of the house, put on makeup to hide the hollow in her cheeks. "I'm so sorry," Sarah said, her voice steady despite her shaking hands. "I've been fighting a terrible flu. I didn't want Lily to fall behind, but I could barely get out of bed myself. She's been helping take care of me. She's such a good girl." Ms. Patterson looked around, saw a home that was humble but not obviously dangerous, saw a mother who seemed tired but coherent, saw Lily, who appeared on cue, smiling that practiced smile. "Is everything okay, sweetie?" Ms. Patterson asked. Lily nodded enthusiastically. "Mama's feeling better now. I've been reading to her, like she used to read to me. We're a team." Ms. Patterson made notes, asked a few more questions, then stood. "I'll be checking in, make sure Lily gets to school regularly. And Mrs. Morrison, if you need help, there are resources available." "Thank you," Sarah said. "Things are going to get better, I promise." After the social worker left, Sarah collapsed on the couch, shaking. Lily sat beside her, patting her mother's hand. "See, Mama?" she said. "Things will get better, just like you said." Sarah pulled Lily close, breathing in the scent of her daughter's hair. Still sweet, still innocent. "Yeah, baby," she whispered. "It's all going to be fine." But as she said it, her hand reached for the pill bottle hidden in the couch cushions. Just one more, just to take the edge off. The promises felt emptier every time she made them. Lily decided that if she could just be good enough, everything would work out. She started waking herself up with an old alarm clock she'd found in a drawer, the kind that ticked loudly through the night. Every morning at 6:30, she'd climb out of bed, tiptoe to her mother's room and peek inside. Some mornings, Sarah would be sleeping peacefully. Other mornings, she'd be so still that Lily would stand there, counting the seconds until she saw her mother's chest rise and fall. Only then would Lily breathe again. She created routines. Cereal for breakfast. She could reach the box now if she stood on a chair. She'd lay out her clothes the night before, often wearing the same outfit twice because the laundry piled up faster than Sarah could manage it. Lily tried washing things in the sink once, but they never dried properly and ended up smelling worse. "I'm going to school now, Mama," she'd call out each morning. Sometimes there was an answer, usually there wasn't. At school, Lily became an expert at invisible. She sat quietly, completed her work, never raised her hand unless called on. Mr. Davis thought she was shy. The school counselor marked her down as well-adjusted. But Lily was watching, always watching. She noticed which kids threw away half their lunches. She'd position herself near the trash cans and ask with her sweetest smile, "Are you going to finish that?" Most kids just handed it over, happy to help the small girl with the big eyes. On her walk home, 8 blocks through neighborhoods that got rougher with each turn, Lily discovered Mr. Kowalski. He was an elderly man who lived in the house next door, surrounded by a garden that seemed to be the only beautiful thing on the whole street. "You're the new neighbor girl," he said one afternoon, his accent thick. Polish, maybe Russian. Lily wasn't sure. "I see you walking alone. Where is your mama?" "She's working very hard," Lily said automatically. "We're going to get a better house soon." Mr. Kowalski studied her with eyes that had seen too much of the world to be fooled by a child's optimism. "You like cookies? Chocolate chip?" Lily's stomach growled traitorously. "I love cookies." "Then you come visit me tomorrow, yes? Mr. Kowalski makes the best cookies in 3 states. My wife's recipe, God rest her soul." It became their routine. 3 times a week, Lily would visit Mr. Kowalski, who always seemed to have fresh cookies or sometimes soup or sandwiches that were extras he'd made. He never asked why she was so hungry. She never told him she sometimes hadn't eaten since the school lunch. "You are good girl," he'd say, patting her head with his weathered hand. "Smart girl. You remind me of my granddaughter before my son moved to California." At home, things continued to deteriorate. Marcus returned briefly, long enough to have a screaming argument with Sarah about money he'd borrowed and lost, long enough to punch a hole in the living room wall, long enough to terrify Lily, who hid in her closet with her hands over her ears. "You're worthless," Marcus shouted. "I'm done carrying you both." "Then leave," Sarah screamed back. "We don't need you." You think you can make it without me? You can barely make it with me. The door slammed. Silence fell like a heavy blanket. Lily crept out of her closet and found Sarah sitting on the kitchen floor, surrounded by bills she couldn't pay, crying in a way that made no sound. "Mama?" Lily whispered. Sarah looked up at her daughter, her beautiful, innocent daughter, and tried to pull herself together. "I'm okay, baby, just adult stuff, don't worry. Can I help?" "You help just by being you." Sarah pulled Lily into her lap, holding her tight. "I'm going to fix this, I promise. Things are going to get better." Lily had heard that promise so many times now. She wanted desperately to believe it. That night, as Sarah tucked her into bed, Lily asked, "Mama, in Cinderella, how long did she have to wait before things got better?" Sarah paused, her hand stroking Lily's hair. "I don't know, sweetheart. The story never says. Do you think she ever got scared that it would never happen?" The question hung in the air, heavy with meaning beyond Lily's years. "Maybe," Sarah admitted quietly. But she kept hoping anyway. That's what made her brave. After Sarah left, Lily lay in the darkness, listening to the house settle around her. The drip of the leaky faucet, the distant sound of sirens, the muffled sound of her mother crying in the next room. She whispered to her stuffed unicorn, "They said it would stop. Everyone keeps saying things will get better." The unicorn, of course, didn't answer. But somewhere deep inside, Lily was starting to wonder if hoping was enough. Winter arrived early that year, and with it came a cold that seeped through the walls of 847 Maple Street, like unwelcome visitors. Lily woke one December morning to see her breath forming small clouds in the air. The heat had been shut off. She pulled on 2 sweaters and her winter coat, the one from last year that no longer zipped all the way, and padded quietly to her mother's room. Sarah was curled under 3 blankets, barely visible. "Mama, it's really cold." No response. Lily stood there for a long moment watching. Finally, she saw movement, shallow breathing. Her mother was alive. That's what mattered. In the kitchen, Lily discovered the electricity was still on, so she turned on the oven and left the door open, the way she'd seen in a movie once. It helped a little. She made herself cereal with the last of the milk, which smelled slightly off but wasn't completely bad yet. School had become her escape. At least there, the building was warm. The lights worked. There were adults who showed up every day, but even that refuge was slipping away. "Lily, honey, can you stay after class for a minute?" Mr. Davis asked one afternoon. Her heart sank. She knew that tone. When the other students filed out, Mr. Davis sat on the edge of his desk, his expression kind but concerned. "You've missed a lot of school lately. 8 days just this month. Is everything all right at home?" The question everyone kept asking. The question Lily had learned to answer with a smile. "My mama's been sick," she said, the lie smooth as glass now. "I have to help take care of her sometimes." "Is there another adult who can help? What about your father?" "He's away, working." Mr. Davis nodded slowly. "Lily, you're a bright girl, but I can't help you if I don't know what's really going on." Lily's smile never wavered. "Everything's fine, Mr. Davis. I promise." After she left, Mr. Davis added another note to her file. But with 32 students in his class and no clear signs of immediate danger, the note joined the others. Concern documented but not acted upon. At home, the days blurred together. Sarah rarely left her bedroom now. When she did emerge, she was either agitated and snapping at Lily for small things, or so distant she seemed to look right through her daughter. The pill bottles multiplied on her nightstand. Lily didn't understand what they all were, but she understood that her mother needed them the way she needed air. "Mama, we don't have any food," Lily said one evening, standing in the doorway of Sarah's room. Check the pantry." "I did. There's only crackers, and they're stale." Sarah's hand trembled as she pressed it to her forehead. "Tomorrow. I'll go shopping tomorrow." Tomorrow never came. Lily survived on Mr. Kowalski's kindness and whatever she could find. She learned that the corner store sometimes threw out bread that was one day past the sell-by date. She learned which neighbors left their garbage cans out early. Sometimes there were unopened canned goods they'd thrown away. She was 7 years old, foraging like a small animal. One night, as Lily lay in bed wearing every piece of clothing she owned to stay warm, she heard Marcus return. His voice carried through the thin walls, angry, slurred. "Where's the money, Sarah? You said you'd have it." I don't have any. I lost both jobs. I can't do this anymore." "You're pathetic. You know that?" "Absolutely pathetic." "Then why are you still here?" The question seemed to shock them both. There was a long silence. Then Marcus's voice, cold and final. "You're right. I don't know why I am." Lily heard him moving through the house, grabbing his things. She heard the front door open. Marcus wait, but the door slammed shut. A car engine started, drove away. In the silence that followed, Lily heard her mother collapse onto the living room floor, sobbing. She wanted to go to her, to comfort her, to fix this somehow. But Lily was so tired of being brave, tired of pretending, tired of believing that tomorrow would be better when every tomorrow was worse than the day before. She pulled her blankets over her head and whispered to the darkness. They said it would stop. Everyone said things would get better. Outside her window, Mr. Kowalski's Christmas lights twinkled, the only bright spot in a neighborhood that felt like it was slowly being swallowed by shadows. Lily closed her eyes and tried to remember what hope felt like. It was getting harder every day. Officer Daniel Turner had been patrolling the East End for 6 years. He knew every corner, every troubled house, every kid who needed watching out for. That's why the little girl caught his attention. It was nearly 7 in the evening, already dark when he spotted her walking alone on Maple Street. She wore a purple dress that looked too thin for the December cold, and she was talking to herself, or maybe to the stuffed unicorn tucked under her arm. Turner slowed his patrol car and rolled down the window. "Hey there, sweetheart. Little late to be out by yourself, isn't it?" The girl stopped, her eyes going wide. For a moment, she looked ready to run. Then she seemed to remember something. Maybe something a teacher had told her about police officers being helpers. "I was just visiting my neighbor," she said, her voice small but trying to sound confident. "Mr. Kowalski. He makes cookies." Turner glanced at the house she'd indicated, the only one on the block with lights on and a well-kept garden. Then he looked back at the girl, really looked at her. Her dress was stained. Her hair needed washing. Her coat didn't zip. But it was her eyes that struck him. Old eyes in a young face, eyes that had seen too much. "What's your name?" "Lily. Lily Morrison." "Well, Miss Lily, I'm Officer Turner. Where do you live?" She pointed to the house next door, 847 Maple Street. Even in the darkness, Turner could see it was in rough shape. "And where are your parents right now?" Lily's rehearsed smile appeared. "Mama's home. She's just resting. She works really hard." "And your dad?" "He's away. Working too." Turner had heard these answers before. Every word technically true, every word hiding something. "How about I walk you home? Make sure you get inside safe." Panic flashed across Lily's face. "No, that's okay. It's just right there. I can see the door from here." "Lily," Turner said gently, "is everything all right at home?" The million-dollar question. The one that could change everything or nothing, depending on how a child answered. Lily stood very still, and for just a moment Turner saw the mask slip. He saw a little girl who was exhausted, scared, and desperately alone. Then the smile snapped back into place. "Everything's fine, sir. Thank you for checking." Turner knew he was at a crossroads. He could push, ask more questions, knock on that door, file a report, but he'd been down that road before. Sometimes it helped. Sometimes it made things worse. And sometimes, like with overcrowded social services and families who knew how to put on a good show for investigators, it changed nothing at all. He made a decision. Turner reached into his wallet and pulled out his business card. "Lily, I want you to have this. See this number? That's my direct line at the station. If you ever need help, and I mean really need help, you call me, day or night. Can you do that?" Lily took the card carefully, like it was made of glass. "You mean it?" "I promise. And I keep my promises." Something shifted in her expression. Hope, maybe. Or just the desperate wish for hope. "Thank you, Officer Turner." "You're welcome, sweetheart. Now get inside where it's warm, okay?" He watched as she walked to her house, slipped through the front door, and disappeared inside. He sat there for a long moment, engine idling, debating whether to knock anyway. Finally, he drove on. But he made a note to swing by this street more often on his patrols. Inside 847 Maple Street, Lily stood in the darkened living room, looking at the card in her hand. The house was cold. Her mother was in the bedroom, door closed. There was no food in the refrigerator, but Lily had something she hadn't had before, a promise from someone who looked her in the eye when he made it. She tucked the card carefully into her favorite book, the one about Cinderella, and placed it under her pillow. That night, as she lay shivering under thin blankets, wearing her coat to bed, Lily whispered to her unicorn, "Officer Turner said he'd come if I called. Do you think he meant it?" The unicorn, as always, didn't answer, but Lily held the thought close anyway, like a candle in the dark. Maybe, just maybe, not all promises were empty. She just had to be brave enough to find out. Chapter 7. When Mama tried, Lily woke to something she hadn't heard in weeks, movement in the kitchen. She sat up, disoriented. Sunlight streamed through her window, real sunlight, not the gray dawn she usually woke to. Her alarm clock read 9:47 a.m. She'd overslept, but more importantly, someone was cooking. She rushed to the kitchen and stopped in the doorway, stunned. Sarah stood at the stove, her hair washed and pulled back, wearing clean clothes. She was making pancakes, actual pancakes, from scratch the way she used to. "Mama?" Sarah turned, and her smile was different, clearer, present. "Good morning, baby girl. I thought we could have a special breakfast, just you and me." Lily approached cautiously, like Sarah might evaporate if she moved too fast. You're up." "I am." Sarah knelt down, taking Lily's hands in hers. "And I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I haven't been the mama you deserve, but that's going to change. Starting right now." For the first time in months, Lily felt something dangerous bloom in her chest. Hope. The next 3 days felt like a miracle. Sarah cleaned the house, really cleaned it. She opened windows despite the cold, letting fresh air chase away the stale smell of neglect. She did laundry, folding Lily's clothes with care. She even called the utility company and worked out a payment plan to get the heat turned back on. "See," Sarah said, surveying their small home with something like pride. "We can do this. We can turn things around." She took Lily to the park, something they hadn't done since before the move. They sat on the swings together, and Sarah pushed Lily higher and higher, their laughter floating up into the winter sky. "Higher, Mama, higher! You'll fly away. Then catch me when I fall." Sarah's smile faltered for just a moment. "Always, baby. I'll always catch you." That night, Sarah made spaghetti, Lily's favorite. They ate together at the table like a real family. Sarah asked about school, actually listening to the answers. She helped with homework, her hand steady as she guided Lily through multiplication problems. "You're so smart," Sarah said, kissing the top of Lily's head. "You get that from your grandma. She was sharp as a tack. Tell me about her?" And Sarah did. Stories Lily had heard before but never tired of. Stories of a woman who raised 3 kids alone, who never gave up no matter how hard things got. "She'd be so proud of you," Sarah whispered, "and so disappointed in me." "Mama, no. But I'm going to do better. I'm going to be the mother she taught me to be. I promise." Lily wanted to believe so badly it hurt. On the 3rd day, Sarah enrolled herself in a community support group. She came home with pamphlets about assistance programs, job training, addiction recovery. "Look at all this help that's available," she said, spreading the papers on the table. I had to be ready to ask for it, to admit I needed it." But that night, Lily woke to sounds from the bathroom. Her mother violently sick. The withdrawal from stopping the pills so suddenly was taking its toll. Sarah tried to hide it. She cleaned up, put on a brave face the next morning. But Lily saw the trembling hands, the sweat on her mother's forehead despite the cold, the way she could barely keep food down. "I'm fine," Sarah insisted. "It's just a bug. It'll pass." Marcus returned on the 4th day. He came through the door at 2 in the morning, drunk and loud. Lily heard everything from her room. "Look who finally decided to clean up," he sneered. "Playing house again, Sarah? Get out. We don't need you." "Oh, you need me. Where else you gonna live? Who else is gonna—" "I said get out." The fight escalated quickly. Accusations flew like weapons. Marcus owed money to dangerous people. He needed a place to hide. Sarah demanded he leave and never come back. "You think you can make it without me?" Marcus laughed bitterly. "You can't even make it with me. Look at you. You're shaking so bad you can barely stand. That's because I'm getting better. I stopped taking. You stopped? Marcus's voice turned cold. Sarah, you can't just stop those pills. You'll make yourself sick. You need to taper off, get medical help. What were you thinking? I was thinking I needed to be there for my daughter. Something shattered. A glass against a wall. Lily squeezed her eyes shut, hands over her ears. When she finally crept out the next morning, Marcus was gone. Really gone this time, his clothes, his belongings, everything. He'd left a note on the kitchen counter. Can't watch you destroy yourself, good luck. Sarah sat at the table, staring at nothing. The clean house suddenly felt hollow. Mama? Sarah looked up and Lily's heart broke. Her mother's eyes were hollow again, that brief spark of life already fading. I tried, baby, Sarah whispered. I really tried. I know, Mama. We can try again. I can't. Sarah's voice cracked. My body. It hurts so much without the medicine. And my head won't stop screaming. I can't think. I can't breathe. I can't. Lily watched as her mother reached for a pill bottle she'd hidden under the sink. Her emergency backup. 3 days of hope died in a single swallow. Mr. Kowalski noticed the change immediately. Lily came to his door the next afternoon, and the light that had briefly returned to her eyes was gone. She looked smaller somehow, like she'd folded in on herself. Little one, he said gently. Come in, I have fresh bread today. She ate mechanically, without joy. Mr. Kowalski had seen that look before, in his own grandchildren years ago, when his son's marriage fell apart. The look of a child whose hope had been weaponized against them. Your mama, she is okay? He asked carefully. She tried, Lily said quietly. She really tried to get better, but it didn't work. Mr. Kowalski's weathered heart ached. He'd been watching that house for months now, seeing the signs he recognized too well from his old neighborhood. The chaos, the instability, the slow collapse. That evening, he made a decision. When Marcus's beat-up car pulled up to the curb, the man apparently returning for something he'd forgotten, Mr. Kowalski was waiting on his porch. You, he called out. We need to talk. Marcus looked annoyed. Not now, old man. I'm busy. You make time or I call police. Tell them about the shouting, the breaking things, the little girl left alone. That got Marcus's attention. He approached, jaw tight. What do you want? The truth. What is happening in that house? Why does that child look like a ghost? Something in Marcus's face shifted. Guilt, maybe, or just exhaustion with his own life. Look, I tried to help them. I did. But Sarah, he shook his head. She's sick. Really sick. And I can't fix her. Nobody can except maybe herself, and she's not ready. And the child? The kid's not mine. I didn't sign up for this. Marcus's voice was defensive, but there was shame underneath. Sarah promised she had everything under control when I moved in. She promised she was managing, but she's not. She's drowning, and if I stay, I'll drown too. So you abandon them? What do you want me to do? I got debts to people who don't take I'll pay you later for an answer. I got no job, no money, nowhere to go. I'm not the bad guy here. I'm just another person trying to survive. Mr. Kowalski studied this broken man. Does Sarah know? About your debts? About why you really stay sometimes and go other times? Marcus looked away. She knows enough. And she knows you are leaving for good now? The note I left was pretty clear. From inside 847 Maple Street there was a sound. A crash. Then Sarah's voice, confused and angry, calling for Marcus. That's my cue to go, Marcus muttered. He headed for his car, then paused. Hey, old man, you seem to care about the kid. Maybe keep an eye on her, yeah? Because I don't think this story ends well otherwise. He drove away, taillights disappearing into the dusk. Mr. Kowalski stood there a long moment, then turned back to his house. Through Lily's window next door, he could see her small silhouette, sitting on her bed, arms wrapped around her knees. The next day, Lily didn't come for cookies, or the day after that. On the third day, Mr. Kowalski knocked on the door of 847 Maple Street. No answer. He knocked again, harder. Finally, Sarah appeared, pale, disheveled, barely coherent. Yes? I have not seen Lily. Is she well? She's fine. We're fine. Please leave us alone. Mrs. Morrison, I mean no disrespect, but I said we're fine. Sarah's voice cracked, then quieter, almost pleading. Please leave us alone. She closed the door. Mr. Kowalski stood there, his conscience warring with his desire not to interfere. He'd lived through enough to know that good intentions didn't always lead to good outcomes, but he also knew what happened when good people did nothing. That night, he called the number he'd found online, Child Protective Services. He reported what he'd seen: a child often alone, a mother who seemed unable to care for her, a home environment that concerned him. They took his information, promised to investigate, said these things took time. Inside her pink room, Lily had heard Mr. R. Kowalski at the door. She'd heard her mother's breakdown after he left. She'd heard Sarah on the phone, crying to someone who probably wasn't listening. And Lily understood something that no 7-year-old should have to understand. Her mother loved her, but love alone couldn't fix what was broken. Marcus was gone because he'd never really been there. And all the people who promised to help, the teachers, the social workers, even kind Mr. Kowalski, were trapped by a system that moved too slowly to catch children as they fell. She pulled Officer Turner's card from her book and stared at it in the dim light. Not yet, she told herself. Mama would be so upset. It would make everything worse. But she kept the card close, just in case. Chapter 9. The Deepest Dark. 3 days after Marcus left for good, the electricity was shut off. Lily woke in complete darkness, the kind that presses against your eyes that makes you question whether you're even awake. Her alarm clock was dead. The streetlight that usually glowed through her window was the only proof the world still existed. "Mama?" she called softly. No answer. She climbed out of bed, feeling her way along the wall to her mother's room. The door was closed. She pressed her ear against it and heard nothing. Not breathing, not movement. Nothing. Terror seized her. She pushed the door open. "Mama!" In the dim light from the window, she could see Sarah's form on the bed, utterly still. Lily's heart stopped. She rushed forward, shaking her mother's shoulder. "Mama, please wake up. Please." Sarah stirred slightly, mumbled something incoherent, then fell silent again. She was alive, but barely there. Lily stood in the doorway, tears streaming down her face, and felt something inside her crack. She was tired, so tired of being brave, tired of pretending, tired of waiting for help that never came. She went back to her room, climbed under her covers fully dressed, and didn't move for hours. The days that followed blurred together into a nightmare. With no electricity, the house grew colder. The refrigerator stopped working, and what little food they had spoiled. Lily wore every piece of clothing she owned, layered like armor against the cold. Sarah emerged from her room occasionally, ghost-like, barely seeming to recognize her own daughter. She'd wander to the kitchen, stare at the empty cabinets, then drift back to bed. Lily stopped going to school entirely. What was the point? Nobody seemed to notice when she was there anyway. Mr. Kowalski was in the hospital. She'd seen the ambulance take him away 3 days ago. His house stood dark and empty, his garden already beginning to look neglected. She was alone. On the 4th day without electricity, Lily discovered there was no running water either. She tried the taps. Nothing. The toilet wouldn't flush. She sat on the bathroom floor and cried until she had no tears left. That afternoon, driven by hunger so intense it hurt, Lily did something she'd never done before. She walked to the convenience store 6 blocks away, stood in the snack aisle, and when she was sure no one was looking, slipped a granola bar into her pocket. Her hands shook as she walked out. She expected someone to shout, to chase her, to call her a thief. No one even looked up. She ate the granola bar sitting behind a dumpster in an alley, and hated herself for how good it tasted. When she returned home that evening, she found Sarah sitting in the darkened living room, surrounded by unpaid bills. "Lily." Her mother's voice was strange, distant like it was coming from underwater. "Is that you?" "It's me, Mama." "I'm sorry," Sarah whispered. "I'm so sorry, baby. I don't know how this happened. I tried so hard. I wanted to give you everything." Lily sat beside her mother on the floor. "I know, Mama. Your grandma, she would have known what to do. She was so strong. Why aren't I strong like her?" "You are strong, Mama. You're just tired." Sarah pulled Lily close, and they sat together in the darkness. For a moment it felt like before, like when Lily was small and believed her mother could fix anything. "What are we going to do?" Lily asked. Sarah didn't answer. Maybe because she didn't know. Maybe because there was no good answer. That night, Lily lay in bed wearing her princess dress under her coat, trying to remember what it felt like to believe in happy endings. She thought about Officer Turner's card, still tucked in her book. She'd memorized the number by now, just in case. But calling meant admitting something terrible, that her mother couldn't take care of her, that they were failing, that strangers would come and probably take her away. Lily didn't want to go away. She wanted to stay with her mama. She wanted things to go back to how they used to be. She wanted someone to help without everything changing. But she was starting to understand that wasn't how the world worked. Through her window, she could see other houses, warm lights glowing, families moving through their evening routines, normal lives happening just feet away from her darkness. They said it would stop, Lily whispered to her unicorn. They said someone would help. They said things would get better. But nobody came. Nobody saw. And Lily wondered, with the terrible clarity of desperation, if maybe nobody ever would, unless she did something she was terrified to do. The card seemed to glow in the darkness, like it was calling to her. Not yet, she told herself again. Maybe tomorrow things would be better. Maybe Mama would wake up and be herself again. Maybe the power would come back on. Maybe. But deep down, in a place that scared her, Lily knew the truth. Maybe wasn't coming. She would have to choose between loyalty and survival, and she was running out of time to make that choice. The morning Lily decided to save herself started like all the others. Cold, dark, and silent. She woke with frost on the inside of her window. Her breath came out in clouds. She'd dreamed about Cinderella again, but this time the fairy godmother never came. Cinderella just sat in the ashes, waiting and waiting, until she turned to stone. Lily got up and went through her routine, checking on her mother, still breathing, looking for food, none, trying the water, still off. She was so hungry her stomach had stopped growling and just ached, a constant companion. She found herself standing in front of her bookshelf, staring at the Cinderella book where Officer Turner's card was hidden. For weeks now, she'd told herself she couldn't call, that it would make things worse, that her mother would be angry or hurt or ashamed, that maybe tomorrow would be better. But standing there in the freezing house wearing the same clothes for the 5th day, with no food and no heat, and a mother who couldn't wake up enough to notice her own daughter was disappearing, Lily understood something. Waiting wasn't brave, it was just slow surrender. The princesses in her stories, they didn't save themselves by being patient. Cinderella had to go to the ball. Snow White had to trust the dwarfs. Rapunzel had to let down her hair. They had to do something scary to change their story. Lily pulled out the card. She'd looked at it so many times the edges were worn soft. She traced Officer Turner's name with her finger. "You said you'd come if I needed help," she whispered. "You promised." She thought about all the other promises, from her mother, from Marcus, from the social worker who'd visited months ago, from teachers who'd said they'd keep an eye on things. Promises that dissolved like sugar in rain. But something about Officer Turner had been different. The way he'd looked at her, really looked, really seen. The way he'd given her the card without making her beg. Lily made her decision. She walked to her mother's room and gently took the old cell phone from the nightstand, the one Sarah kept charged for emergencies with a prepaid plan that still had minutes left. Her hands trembled as she dialed. It rang once, twice, 3 times. What if he didn't answer? What if he didn't remember her? What if... Officer Turner. Lily's voice caught in her throat. "Hello? This is Officer Turner. Is someone there?" She forced the words out. It's Lily. Lily Morrison. From Maple Street." There was a pause, then his voice changed, concerned, focused. "Lily? Are you okay? What's wrong?" Everything. Everything was wrong. But where did she even start? You gave me your card. You said if I needed help. I remember. I'm here. What's happening?" The tears came then, hot against her cold cheeks. They said it would stop. Everyone said things would get better, but they didn't. They never did. "Lily, sweetheart, where are you right now? Are you safe?" "I'm home. In my room. The pink one with the stars." She looked up at those stars, the ones her mother had painted with such hope. "Mama painted them when we moved here. She said we'd make new memories." "That's beautiful." "Lily, is your mama there with you?" "She's in her room, but..." She won't wake up. I tried. I really tried. She heard something in the background, keys jingling, a car door. Lily, I need you to listen to me very carefully. Are you hurt? Are you in any danger right now? No, I'm really hungry and it's so cold, and I don't know what to do anymore. You did exactly the right thing by calling me. I'm coming to help you right now, okay? I need you to stay on the phone with me. Can you do that? You promise you'll come? The question carried the weight of every broken promise before it. Other people promised too. I promise, Lily, I'm already in my car. I'll be there in 15 minutes. Now tell me about your princess dress. Are you wearing it today? As Lily described her dress, her room, her unicorn, Officer Turner drove through morning traffic with his emergency lights on. He radioed for backup, social services, an ambulance just in case. This time, he wouldn't just check in and drive away. This time, he'd make sure this little girl got the help she needed, even if it meant tearing down every bureaucratic wall in the city. Lily, I can see your street now. I'm almost there. She went to her window and saw the flashing lights approaching, blue and red like in the movies, just like last time. I see you, she whispered. I'm parking now. I'm going to hang up the phone and come to your door, okay? But I want you to know, you were so brave to call. So brave. Lily hung up and stood there, in her princess dress and winter coat, in the cold house on Maple Street. She'd done the scariest thing she'd ever done. She'd asked for help, and for the first time in longer than she could remember, someone was actually coming. Not tomorrow. Not maybe. Not when things got worse. Officer Turner stood at the door of 847 Maple Street, and even from outside he could tell something was terribly wrong. He knocked firmly. Lily, it's Officer Turner. Can you open the door? He heard small footsteps, then the lock turning. The door opened, and there she stood. The little girl from weeks ago, but changed. Thinner, paler, wearing layers of clothes that couldn't hide how much weight she'd lost. Hi, she said quietly. Hi, sweetheart. Turner knelt down to her level. Thank you for being so brave and calling me. Can I come in? Lily nodded and stepped aside. The smell hit him first. Mildew, unwashed dishes, something else he couldn't identify. The house was freezing, dark. Turner flicked a light switch. Nothing. The electricity's been off for a while, Lily explained like she was apologizing. An ambulance and a social services vehicle pulled up outside. Ms. Rodriguez, a veteran social worker, entered with a medical team. I'll check on the mother, the paramedic said, heading toward the bedroom Lily pointed to. Ms. Rodriguez knelt beside Lily. Hi, honey. I'm Ms. Rodriguez. I'm here to help. You're not in any trouble, okay? Lily nodded, but her eyes tracked to her mother's room where voices were rising. The paramedics trying to rouse Sarah. Turner stepped away, pulling up his phone. He called the precinct. I need all reports filed on 847 Maple Street, Morrison family. Everything we have. While he waited, Ms. Rodriguez did a quick assessment of the home. No food, no heat, no water. The conditions were worse than neglect. This was abandonment, even if the mother was still physically present. Turner's phone buzzed. He read the file that came through and his jaw tightened with every line. 3 reports. 3 separate calls of concern over the past 6 months. November 2nd, Jefferson Elementary reported excessive absences and signs of possible neglect. Status: initial home visit completed, case marked monitoring. December 15th, anonymous neighbor report of child frequently alone, mother possibly unable to care for child. Status: call attempted, no answer, marked low priority, no immediate danger observed. January 8th, hospital emergency room flagged Sarah Morrison during a visit for medication management concerns. Notation that she had a minor child at home. Status: information forwarded to social services, filed as pending follow-up. Pending. Monitoring. Low priority. The system had known, the system had documented, the system had failed. Turner walked back to where Lily sat with Ms. Rodriguez, his expression carefully controlled despite the anger burning in his chest. Lily, he said gently, did anyone come to check on you before? Maybe from a school or an office? Lily nodded. A lady came once. Mama cleaned the house real good that day. She told the lady everything was fine. And after that, did the lady come back? Lily shook her head. She said she would. She said things would get better. There it was again. that phrase that haunted this child. The paramedics emerged from Sarah's room, supporting her between them. Sarah was conscious but barely coherent, her eyes unfocused. "Lily?" she mumbled. "Baby, what's happening?" "We're taking your mother to the hospital, Lily," the paramedic explained kindly. "She needs medical help." "Is she going to be okay?" Lily's voice was small. "We're going to do everything we can." As they loaded Sarah into the ambulance, she seemed to suddenly understand what was happening. "No, wait. My daughter. I need my daughter. Lily." Ms. Rodriguez put a gentle hand on Lily's shoulder. "Your mama needs to focus on getting better right now, and we need to make sure you're safe and taken care of." "Am I going away?" Lily asked, the question she'd been dreading. "You're going somewhere safe," Ms. Rodriguez said honestly. "Somewhere warm with food, with people who will make sure you're okay." Turner watched Lily's face, saw the fear, the sadness, but also something else. Relief, maybe, or just exhaustion finally giving way. "Officer Turner?" Lily looked up at him. "You kept your promise." His throat tightened. "I did, and I'm going to keep helping, okay? This isn't the end of our story." As Ms. Rodriguez prepared to take Lily to emergency foster care, Turner made a call to his supervisor. "We need to talk about how cases are being handled in this district, now." The emergency foster home was nothing like Lily expected. It was warm. That was the first thing she noticed when Ms. Rodriguez walked her through the door. Real warmth, the kind that made her fingers tingle as they thawed. "Lily, this is Mrs. Patterson, no relation to the other social worker, and her husband, Mr. Patterson. They're going to take care of you for now." Mrs. Patterson was a round woman with kind eyes and gray hair pulled into a bun. She smiled at Lily without the pity that made her feel small. "Welcome, sweetheart. You must be hungry. How about some hot soup?" Lily nodded, not trusting her voice. The house wasn't fancy, but it was clean and lived in. There were other children there, 2 boys playing video games in the living room, a teenage girl doing homework at the kitchen table. They glanced at Lily with casual interest but didn't stare. Mrs. Patterson led her to a small bedroom. "This will be yours while you're here. Fresh sheets, warm blankets. The bathroom is across the hall. There's shampoo, soap, everything you need." Lily stood in the doorway, clutching her backpack, hastily packed by Ms. Rodriguez with the few clothes that still fit. Can I bring my unicorn to dinner?" "Of course you can, honey." That night, Lily ate more than she had in weeks. Soup, bread, even seconds. Her stomach hurt from the unfamiliar fullness, but it was a good hurt. After dinner, Mrs. Patterson ran her a bath. Lily couldn't remember the last time she'd had hot water. She stayed in until her fingers pruned, washing away weeks of dirt and fear. When she emerged in clean pajamas Mrs. Patterson had provided, she looked at herself in the mirror. She barely recognized the girl staring back, thin, with dark circles under her eyes, but clean, safe. Over the next week, Lily began to understand what normal could look like. She went to a new school temporarily, where a counselor checked in with her daily. She ate 3 meals a day. She slept in a warm bed. She played with the other foster children, who understood without being told that some things you didn't ask about. Ms. Rodriguez visited every few days with updates. "Your mama is in a treatment program at the hospital. She's getting help for the things that made it hard for her to take care of you." "Is she mad at me for calling Officer Turner?" Ms. Rodriguez chose her words carefully. "Your mama is dealing with a lot of big feelings right now, but the most important thing is that you're both safe, and that's because you were brave enough to ask for help." Officer Turner visited too, always with a small gift. A coloring book, a pack of markers, a new book about princesses. "How are you doing, kiddo?" "It's weird," Lily admitted. "Being warm all the time, having food, not being scared. That's not weird. That's how it should be. But I miss my mama. I know you do. And that's okay. You can miss her and still be glad you're safe. Both things can be true." 3 weeks after Lily's call, there was a meeting. Lawyers, social workers, a judge who spoke kindly but seriously. Lily sat in a room with Ms. Rodriguez while adults discussed her future like it was a puzzle to solve. Finally, Ms. Rodriguez emerged. "Lily, there's going to be a hearing. The judge wants to decide what's best for you. Your mama is working hard to get better, but it's going to take time. Probably several months." What happens to me? We're going to find you a foster family. Not emergency care like the Pattersons, but a real home where you can stay while your mama gets well. Would that be okay? Lily thought about her pink room, her stars on the ceiling, her mama's promises. Then she thought about being warm, being fed, being safe. Okay, she whispered. That afternoon, Lily did something she'd never done before. She wrote a letter. Dear Mama, Ms. Rodriguez says I can write to you. I hope you're feeling better. I'm not mad at you. I know you tried really hard. I love you so much. But I was really scared. And I was so hungry and cold. I didn't know what else to do. I hope you get better for real this time. Not pretend better. Real better. I'll wait for you. But I need to be safe while I wait. Love. Lily. Ms. Rodriguez promised to deliver it. That night, Lily lay in bed at the Pattersons' house, her unicorn tucked under her arm, and felt something she hadn't felt in months. Peace. Fragile and new, but real. She'd done the hardest thing, and the world hadn't ended. It had maybe just started to begin again. Jimmy, Chapter 13. The day everything hung in the balance. The courthouse felt enormous to Lily. She sat in a chair outside the courtroom, legs swinging because her feet didn't touch the floor. Ms. Rodriguez sat beside her, while Officer Turner stood nearby, having taken the morning off to be there. What's going to happen? Lily asked for the third time. The judge is going to listen to everyone, Ms. Rodriguez explained patiently. The doctors who are helping your mama, the social workers, Officer Turner. Then the judge will decide what's best for you. Will I have to talk? Only if you want to. Only if you feel ready. Through the courtroom doors, Lily could hear muffled voices. Her mother was in there. Lily had seen her briefly in the hallway, looking thin and tired, but more clear-eyed than she'd been in months. Sarah had tried to speak to her, but the lawyers said they shouldn't talk before the hearing. So they just looked at each other across the hallway, mother and daughter, both scared, both hoping. Inside the courtroom, the case was being presented. Sarah's lawyer spoke about her progress. 30 days in treatment, regular therapy, medication properly managed now. She had a job lined up at a grocery store, a room in a supervised living facility. She was trying. But the medical reports told another story. Recovery from addiction wasn't measured in weeks. It took months, sometimes years. Sarah was stable but fragile. One setback could undo everything. Then there was Lily's aunt, Sarah's sister Michelle, who'd driven in from 2 states away. She offered to take Lily, to give her a proper home. But when questioned, Michelle admitted she hadn't seen Sarah or Lily in over 3 years. She worked long hours. Her own teenage son was having some troubles. And yes, the foster care subsidy would help with her bills. The judge, a woman named Harmon with silver hair and sharp eyes, listened to it all without expression. Officer Turner was called to testify. He described the call, the conditions he'd found, the system failures that had allowed it to reach that point. In your professional opinion, Officer Turner, what does this child need? She needs stability, Your Honor. She needs adults who will put her first. She needs time for her mother to truly recover, time for Lily to heal from what she's been through, and she needs to know that the people making promises to her will keep them. Finally, the judge asked the question everyone had been dreading. I'd like to speak with Lily, please. Ms. Rodriguez brought her in. The courtroom seemed even bigger from the inside, with its high ceilings and serious-faced adults. Lily's hands were sweating. Judge Harmon smiled gently. Hello, Lily. I'm Judge Harmon. You're not in any trouble. I just want to hear from you. Is that okay? Lily nodded. Do you love your mama? Yes, ma'am. Very much. And do you want to live with her again? This was the hard part. Lily looked at her mother, saw the hope and fear in Sarah's eyes. Lily's voice was barely a whisper. I love my mama, but I don't want to go back until she's really better. Not pretend better, real better. The courtroom went silent. Can you explain what you mean by pretend better? Judge Harmon asked gently. Lily took a shaky breath. Sometimes Mama would seem okay for a few days. She'd make promises and clean the house and everything seemed good. But then it would go back to how it was. And every time it got a little bit worse. Sarah was crying now, silent tears streaming down her face. I don't want that anymore, Lily continued, her voice stronger. I want Mama to be really, really better before I come home, even if it takes a long time." Judge Harmon looked at this small, brave girl who was asking for something no child should have to ask for: safety over reunion. "Thank you, Lily." That took a lot of courage to say. After Lily was escorted back outside, Judge Harmon reviewed her notes. She looked at Sarah, at the aunt, at the social workers. Then she made her decision. Here's what's going to happen. Outside, Lily sat with her unicorn, waiting. Officer Turner sat down beside her. "No matter what happens in there," he said, "you did the right thing by being honest. Will Mama hate me? No, sweetheart. Your Mama loves you. And sometimes love means letting someone be safe, even when it hurts." The courtroom doors opened. Ms. Rodriguez emerged, her expression unreadable. Lily's future was about to be decided. And everything, absolutely everything, hung in the balance. Chapter 14. When the system finally listened. Ms. Rodriguez knelt down in front of Lily, her expression serious but kind. The judge made her decision. Lily held her breath, squeezing her unicorn so tight her knuckles turned white. "You're going to stay in foster care for now. Your Mama will complete her full treatment program. That's 6 more months. During that time, you'll have visits with her, supervised at first, then on your own as she progresses." "So I'm not going home?" Lily's voice was small. "Not yet. But this isn't forever, Lily. This is just giving everyone time to heal properly. Your Mama agreed she wants what's best for you. Can I see her?" "She's inside, come on." They walked back into the courtroom where Sarah waited, still seated, eyes red from crying. When she saw Lily, she stood, and for a moment they just looked at each other. Then Lily ran to her and Sarah dropped to her knees, catching her daughter in her arms. "I'm so sorry," Sarah whispered into Lily's hair. "I'm so sorry, baby." "I love you, Mama. I love you too, so much." Sarah pulled back, holding Lily's face in her hands. "And that's why I'm going to do this right. Really right this time. No shortcuts, no pretending. I'm going to get better for real. You promise?" Sarah's voice broke. "I've made you so many promises I couldn't keep, so I'm not going to promise. I'm just going to do it, and you'll see. Okay?" Lily nodded, tears streaming down her face. They had 10 more minutes together before Sarah had to return to her program. 10 minutes of holding each other, of Sarah memorizing her daughter's face, of Lily feeling her mother's heartbeat and hoping, carefully, cautiously, that maybe this time really would be different. When they separated, Judge Harmon called Lily over. "Lily, I want you to know something. What you did, calling for help when you needed it, that wasn't betraying your Mama. That was saving both of you. Do you understand?" "I think so. Your Mama can't get better while worrying about keeping you safe, and you can't grow up healthy while worrying about keeping her alive. Sometimes people need to heal separately before they can be together again." That afternoon, Ms. Rodriguez had news. "We found a family for you. Their name is Johnson, Mark and Ellen. They've been foster parents for 5 years. No other kids right now, so you'd have their full attention. Will they like me?" "Lily, they already want to meet you. How about tomorrow?" The next day, Lily met the Johnsons at a neutral location, a park with a playground. Ellen Johnson was a teacher with a warm smile and laugh lines around her eyes. Mark was a quiet man who worked at a library and brought Lily a book as a gift. "We don't have any magic solutions," Ellen said honestly. "We can't erase what you've been through, but we can give you a safe place to land while your Mama gets better. Is that okay?" Lily looked at these strangers who might become her temporary family. "Do you keep your promises?" Mark and Ellen exchanged a glance. "We'll do our absolute best," Mark said. "And if we can't do something we said we'd do, we'll tell you the truth about why. Deal?" It wasn't a fairy tale answer, but it was honest. "Deal," Lily whispered. Meanwhile, Officer Turner hadn't forgotten. He used Lily's case to push for changes, filing formal complaints about the dropped reports, meeting with the chief of police and the director of social services. 3 reports went nowhere, he said, his voice hard. 3 chances to help this family before it reached crisis. That's unacceptable. The system ground slowly, but it ground. New protocols were discussed. Caseload limits were reviewed. It wasn't much, but it was something. 2 weeks later, Lily moved in with the Johnsons. Her room was painted yellow, sunny and bright. There were books on the shelves, curtains with clouds on them, and a comfortable bed with a fluffy comforter. "What do you think?" Ellen asked. Lily set her unicorn carefully on the bed. "It's nice. Really nice." That night after dinner, real homemade dinner and a warm bath, Lily lay in her new bed in her new room and felt something unfamiliar. Safety. Real safety. Not the kind that might disappear tomorrow. She had a mother who was fighting to get better. She had a temporary family who genuinely seemed to care. She had Officer Turner checking in. She had Ms. Rodriguez advocating for her. For the first time in her life, Lily had a team. And maybe, just maybe, that's what healing looked like. Not a prince, not magic, not instant happiness. Just people who showed up, who kept showing up, who did what they said they'd do. 6 months later, everything was different. Lily stood in the Johnsons' kitchen, helping Ellen make cookies. Real, homemade cookies, the kind that made the whole house smell like warmth and love. "These remind me of Mr. Kowalski's cookies," Lily said, carefully measuring flour. "Your neighbor? Is he doing better?" "Yeah, he's back home now. I sent him a card." Lily was different too. She'd gained weight, healthy weight that filled out her cheeks and gave her energy. Her hair was shiny and clean, cut into a style she'd picked herself. She laughed more easily now, though sometimes sadness still caught her by surprise. She'd been back in school for 5 months, and her teacher, Mrs. Allen, said she was thriving. She'd made friends, real friends who came over to play and didn't need to know all her story to care about her. But the biggest change was happening somewhere else. At the Oakwood Recovery Center, Sarah Morrison was finishing her 6th month of intensive treatment. She'd gained weight too, her eyes clear for the first time in years. She worked in the center's kitchen, attended therapy twice a week, and lived in supervised housing with other women in recovery. Every Saturday, she had visits with Lily. The first visits had been awkward, supervised in a sterile room with a social worker taking notes. But slowly they'd relaxed. Then they'd moved to unsupervised visits. Then to outings, the park, the library, lunch at a diner. Today was different. Today was the hearing that would determine what happened next. Lily sat in the familiar courthouse, but this time she wasn't afraid. Ms. Rodriguez sat beside her, and Officer Turner was there too, just like he'd promised he'd be. "How are you feeling?" Turner asked. "Nervous, but okay." Sarah entered, accompanied by her counselor. She looked at Lily and smiled, a real smile, full of hope and hard-won peace. Judge Harmon reviewed the files before her, Sarah's progress reports, Lily's therapy notes, the Johnsons' observations, Officer Turner's follow-up statements. "Ms. Morrison," the judge began, "you've completed the program. Your counselors report consistent progress. You have stable housing and employment. That's commendable." "Thank you, Your Honor. However, recovery is ongoing. What assurances can you give this court that you're prepared to care for your daughter full-time?" Sarah took a breath. "Your Honor, I can't promise I'll never struggle again. Addiction isn't something you cure. It's something you manage every single day. But I can promise that I have tools now I didn't have before. A support system, a sponsor I can call, regular therapy. And most importantly, I've learned that asking for help isn't weakness. It's what kept me alive to have this second chance." She looked at Lily. "My daughter saved my life when she made that call. She was braver at 7 than I'd been in 32 years. I won't waste the gift she gave me." Judge Harmon turned to Lily. "How do you feel about potentially returning to live with your mother?" Lily thought carefully. "I love my mama, and I can see she's different now. Really different. Not pretend different. Are you ready?" "I think," Lily paused, "I think we could try. Maybe slowly. Like weekends first?" Ms. Rodriguez smiled. The Johnsons had taught Lily it was okay to ask for what she needed. Judge Harmon made her ruling. Supervised reunification over 3 months. Lily will spend weekends with her mother, then extended periods with regular check-ins. If all goes well, full custody will be restored. It wasn't a fairy tale ending, but it was real. 3 months later, Lily helped her mother set up their new apartment, small but clean, in a better neighborhood with good schools. Sarah had saved money from her job at the grocery store. They'd painted Lily's room together, not pink this time, but lavender, with glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling. "Like before," Sarah said softly. "But better," Lily agreed. The night before Lily officially moved back home, the Johnsons threw her a celebration dinner. There were tears, happy and sad mixed together. "You'll always have a place here," Ellen said, hugging Lily tight. "Always. And we're only a phone call away," Mark added. "For both of you." Officer Turner stopped by too with one final gift, a journal with a princess on the cover. "For writing your story," he said. "The one where you saved yourself." That night, in her new old home, Lily lay in bed listening to her mother moving around in the kitchen. Real sounds, present sounds, sober sounds. She thought about the girl she'd been 6 months ago, cold, hungry, scared, waiting for someone to save her. She thought about the night she'd put on her princess dress like armor and made the call that changed everything. And she understood something important. The princesses in the stories didn't wait in towers until someone came. They made choices. They took risks. They saved themselves, even when they were terrified. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is admit you need help. Sometimes love means letting someone heal, even if it means being apart. Sometimes happily ever after doesn't mean everything is perfect. It just means everyone is finally safe. Lily pulled her unicorn close and whispered, "We made it." From the kitchen, Sarah called out, "Good night, baby girl. I love you. Love you too, Mama." And for the first time in longer than she could remember, Lily believed in tomorrow. Not because someone promised it would be better, but because she'd learned that she had the strength to make it better herself, by being brave enough to ask for the help she deserved. Lily's story represents thousands of real children who face these struggles in silence. They don't need more promises. They need action. If you know a child who needs help, be the promise that actually comes true. Be the Officer Turner who shows up. Be the system that listens. Thank you for following Lily's journey.